There's a book praised in this way. Reading it feels like exploring every tiny centimeter within the space of your soul. The deeper you go, the darker it gets, allowing you to hear thunder in the silence. A warm greeting to all of you. Welcome to Rise Up, a channel sharing knowledge for comprehensive self-development through great books. Today, I'd like to introduce to you a highly professional yet incredibly easy-to-read therapy book titled, Maybe You Should Talk to Someone. In 2019, this book swept across all major bestseller lists right upon its release. It reached the top 10 best-selling books of the year on Amazon in the US and is an annually recommended read by Harvard Business School. It has also been translated into over 40 languages worldwide. I'll include detailed information about this book in the video description. The author of this book, Lori Gottlieb, is a writer and a senior psychotherapist. After graduating from college, she worked as a screenwriter in Hollywood, participating in the production of the legendary television series Friends and several other shows. But then she changed directions, passed the medical school entrance exams, and later went on to pursue a master's degree in clinical psychology, officially becoming a licensed psychotherapist. Because she is both a writer and screenwriter, the storytelling in this book is incredibly engaging and captivating. And because she is a professional psychotherapist, this memoir shares stories about her patients. In the small, intimate space of the therapy room, people reveal their most genuine and vulnerable sides. Through the author's stories, you'll gain new perspectives to understand yourself better. Here, there are 5 stories, 4 about her patients and, most notably, 1 about the author's own journey of psychological healing. Surprisingly, even a professional therapist sometimes needs to find someone to talk to. So, whether it's for you or me, there will come a time, and it could even be right now, when we should find someone trustworthy to talk to. But if you can't find anyone, you still have yourself, and this book can also be a supportive companion, helping you discover the best way to heal. And no matter what, as the psychologist Carl Jung once said, only those who dare to confront their souls truly awaken, and the only person who can heal your wounds will always be you. The 4 questions of life. The Buddha taught that life and the entire journey of life and death is only suffering. All beings existing in this world cannot escape the law of suffering. These pains are likened by psychologist and author Lori to demons living inside each of us. We all have our own demons, whether big or small, new or old, quiet or noisy. No matter how these inner demons may vary, our essence can still be distilled into 4 life themes: loneliness, death, restricted freedom, and meaninglessness. In psychology, these 4 themes are also known as the 4 ultimate questions of life. First, let's reflect on these 4 aspects in a person's life. First, about loneliness. There's a saying that goes, "No one is an island, but everyone has moments when they're forced to become one." This feeling is loneliness. If a person stays immersed in loneliness for too long, they may fall into despair, paranoia, and hallucinations. At this point, even if surrounded by a crowd, amidst so many people, even on a bustling street, we still feel empty and receive no sense of support or comfort. As for death, everyone views life as a one-way journey, with the final destination awaiting us as death. So, when approaching the end, people are often reluctant to get off the train, hesitant because they fear. However, it's not truly the fear of death itself, but rather the fear of losing, of regret, of having to end everything related to it: family, loved ones, possessions, careers, achievements, and so forth. Next, restricted freedom. When born, each person is like a blank page, full of limitless potential. We can freely paint on it with our dreams of liberty and independence. But as we grow, we find ourselves trapped on a rigid path amidst thousands of social rules, biases, and stereotypes. The farther we go, the fewer choices remain. Difficulties in career choices, social competition, family pressure, or invisible expectations increasingly narrow one's freedom. And how many masks and layers do we wear? How many inner conflicts do we still harbor? Ignorance prevents us from truly understanding ourselves. How long has it been since we last cried freely, openly? How long since we dared to face the hidden truths within? In the end, we lose more and more of our true freedom. Lastly, we come to meaninglessness. The master of psychology, Freud, believed that humans tend to seek happiness and avoid pain. However, another famous psychologist, Viktor Frankl, came after him and believed that the true drive for people to move forward is not happiness but the pursuit of life's meaning. Once a person doubts the meaning of their life, and when they cannot find purpose, they easily fall into despair, sometimes even into the abyss of ruin. It can be said that these 4 questions are the very things we may spend a lifetime searching for answers to. They bring countless types of suffering into our lives, yet they are also the keys that allow us to open doors to a new chapter of life, one where ignorance and suffering may finally end. On this journey, we must both learn how to grow and also how to heal ourselves. Seeking answers through the perspective of psychotherapy is one of the methods that can help us find liberation and reconciliation with ourselves. Psychologist Irvin Yalom once said, "Psychotherapy is an existential experience of self-understanding. It can help us confront the 4 ultimate issues of life, bringing change and helping us become better versions of ourselves." Simply put, psychotherapy is the release of pain, helping us escape states of difficulty and helplessness. Of course, it cannot solve every complex issue in life, but it can help you see the world from a different perspective, allowing you to find solutions that make life less tangled and less painful. Following this, we will journey together through 5 stories revolving around the 4 themes: loneliness, death, restricted freedom, and life's meaning, to see that adults indeed have the ability to self-heal their own wounds. Removing the mask that causes loneliness. John is a handsome and successful Hollywood producer who has won the Emmy multiple times, one of the highest awards in American television. Moreover, he has a beautiful wife and 2 lively daughters. To outsiders, John surely looks like a winner in life. But the truth is that John's situation is far from perfect. Recently, he feels overwhelmed by pressure, can't sleep well, has a strained relationship with his wife, and his children don't respect him enough. At work, his boss demands more and more from him, and his colleagues are constantly dragging down efficiency. Dr. Laurie didn't have a great impression of John initially, as he always came across as arrogant and incredibly rude. John thought all his colleagues were idiots, and even Laurie herself wasn't spared from his insulting and malicious comments. After their first therapy session, instead of taking notes, John pulled out a stack of cash and handed it to Laurie, saying, "You seem more like my mistress, or, to be precise, a call girl. I hope you're not offended, but if I wanted to keep a beautiful woman in my private space, I probably wouldn't pick someone like you." His insulting words implied that Laurie wasn't attractive enough. Faced with John's various rude behaviors, Laurie would silently repeat to herself each time she met him, "Take a deep breath. Compassion. Compassion." Only by doing this could she suppress her dislike and continue the therapy sessions. As the sessions progressed, Laurie discovered that what she had seen before was just a mask John was wearing. It was a mask of indifference, of denying others, and it was hiding a profound loneliness. When Laurie realized that John deeply cared for and nurtured a dog, she sincerely commented, "I see that you love Rosie a lot." But John's face suddenly flushed, and he quickly denied it. "How could I? Rosie is just a dog." John looked as embarrassed as a middle school boy denying his crush on a girl in his class. Yet, his eyes betrayed an unexplainable sadness. This moment became a turning point in the entire therapeutic process. Previously numb and closed off, John finally began to express his emotions. Why would someone become emotionally numb and close themselves off? Generally, it's a stress reaction after experiencing a traumatic and severe emotional injury. When too many negative emotions surge at once, people often choose to numb themselves to escape the pain. With Lori's patient guidance, John finally found the courage to voice his inner pain. He could never forgive himself because deep down, he believed he had killed his son, Gabe. He kept thinking, on that drive, if I hadn't been distracted by a call, maybe the accident wouldn't have happened. If there hadn't been an accident, Gabe wouldn't have died and my wife wouldn't have fallen into depression. In the ER on the day of the accident, his wife sobbed and yelled at him, "You idiot! You killed Gabe!" As a father, John grieved no less over his son's death and his wife's accusations. He also wanted to cry aloud, but thinking of his little daughter, he held back his tears. He thought he couldn't collapse because he needed to be the pillar of the family. But here we need to understand that negative emotions must be released promptly. Crying is one of the best ways to unburden oneself and empty out emotions. When tears fall, negative emotions such as regret, guilt, and sorrow can also be released. But at that time, John chose not to cry. As a result, these emotions accumulated deep inside him, forming a black hole capable of swallowing everything. Afterward, John continued going to work every day, attending parties or watching football as usual. His wife called him a cold-blooded bastard, but only he knew that his heart was bleeding, and he wished he could die every day upon waking. Thus, he put on a mask, cutting off all emotional ties with everyone. He became the loneliest person in the crowd. In John's eyes, excitement belonged to others, while he had nothing. In Lori's counseling room, John was finally able to relax, and he shed tears he had suppressed for years. He even howled madly, cursed, laughed, and sobbed. Lori quietly observed the entire process. She knew John was fighting a decisive battle with his inner self. Finally, he wiped his tears and said sheepishly, "I'm truly sorry. I broke down too much." But Lori replied, "You didn't break down. You were reborn." Through his sobbing, John found true peace within. He had finally taken off his mask and freed himself from the loneliness it had brought him. He then began trying to enjoy the time with his family, with his dog Rosie, and even wrote an excellent screenplay, winning another Emmy. He made friends with some good colleagues and started opening up to more people. At the same time, John would never forget Gabe, his little son. The wall between him and his wife was no longer there, replaced by a bond that held them even closer. Together, they watched an old video of their son, and as they saw little Gabe joyfully running around, John and his wife couldn't help but shed tears, but a smile spread across their lips. John's story ends here. He appeared wearing a mask of arrogance, but behind it was loneliness, separating him from everyone. In our lives, how many moments are like John's, where we wear a suit of armor, distancing ourselves from others and protecting our fragile hearts because we fear breaking down once again. But that avoidance only separates us further from life, from ourselves, turning us into lonely islands shrouded in mist. What we should do here is tell ourselves that we, who have tried our best, shouldn't be so harsh on ourselves. Let's take off the mask and express our true emotions. When the knot in our heart is untied, we can open the door deep into our heart, let the sunshine in, escape the aching loneliness, and return to a world surrounded by love and warmth. Death is not the end. The second story is about Julie, a 33-year-old university lecturer. She was at the peak of happiness, having just enjoyed her honeymoon with her husband. She had recently been promoted to professor and was expecting her first child. Yet dark clouds suddenly loomed. She was diagnosed with breast cancer. Julie turned to Dr. Lori for support to help her get through this challenging time. Confronted with what felt like hellish pain, Lori didn't comfort Julie with empty words. Instead, she helped Julie discuss real, practical issues like whether to wear a wig or a headscarf after chemotherapy, how to manage her marriage, address conflicts with her parents or in other relationships, and face work challenges. After several months of intensive treatment, she received good news. The cancer cells had been eliminated. To celebrate, she and her husband went on a hot air balloon ride, holding hands and watching the sunset from 1,000 meters up. However, half a year later, Julie returned to the clinic. This time, she looked exhausted, as she had been diagnosed with another form of cancer. Julie's life resembled a roller coaster, soaring to highs and then plunging to depths with no stable moments. Throughout her time with Julie, as they faced life and death struggles and witnessed the fragility of fate, Dr. Lori also found herself crying and feeling despair multiple times. What can we do to avoid being at the mercy of fate? Eventually, she found an answer for herself. Life means uncertainty. The only way to counteract this uncertainty is to live in the present. Indeed, the past is gone, the future hasn't arrived, and the only thing we can truly control is each second, each minute of the present. So, don't let yourself be lost in the past. Don't fear the future. Just walk this path carefully and savor it. You can always make it to your own tomorrow. Just like Julie, she was truly tested, and fate struck her in a sudden and fierce way. Yet every moment of her life was filled with intrigue and fascination. She truly lived her life. She tried working as a cashier in a supermarket because she thought it was a practical job, directly connecting with and helping people. She organized a book club, helped friends prepare for the college entrance exams for adults, and engaged in online interactions with students. She even planned her own unique memorial service and found a way to say goodbye to the world in her own personal style. More importantly, she helped her husband, Matt, prepare a dating profile so he could successfully find someone after she was gone. A line from a Disney movie once said, "I used to think the opposite of love was not loving, but now I realize the opposite of love is forgetting. Death is not the end of life, but rather it is forgetting." Julie left behind beautiful memories for those she loved. Her life's journey is far from reaching its final stop. Death is not the grim reaper, nor is it the end. It is the greatest lesson in every person's life. Let's look at a simple truth of the present. We are living through a journey that ultimately heads toward death. The world is inherently unpredictable. Many people believe the future is long, yet how can we know if the next turn will bring a bolt from the blue? Instead of living in fear, it's better to let go of attachments, bravely choose what is meaningful for ourselves, so that we won't live with regrets or leave in anguish when the time comes. You are your own hell. This story is about Mrs. Rita, a 69-year-old woman who appears younger than her age but walks slowly and lacks energy, a common symptom of depression. Rita's life has been a series of misfortunes. As a child, she endured an unhappy life with her parents. Seeking an escape, she dropped out of school and married hastily. In the beginning, she was happy, but soon her first husband turned to alcohol and violence. Rita wanted to leave, but without education or skills, she convinced herself to stay, thinking at least this life provided for her children: food, shelter, a big house with a pool, and good schools. But eventually, things went from bad to worse. Her 4 children struggled. One turned to drugs, one was imprisoned, one committed suicide, and one endured ongoing hardship. Realizing she could no longer deceive herself, Rita finally divorced her husband. Yet, even after that, she went through 2 more failed marriages. Rita spent her life working jobs she disliked, with children who were distant and rarely contacted her. She often hid in her house, spying on her neighbors across the street, both admiring and envying them for the happiness she had never experienced. Not long ago, she met a man who made her heart skip a beat, but before she could express her feelings, he turned away and chose a younger woman, deepening her insecurities. Desperate, Rita sought out Dr. Lori for psychological counseling. She felt that if her life didn't change, she would end it. Interestingly, during their therapy sessions, every time she cried, Rita wouldn't reach for the new tissues on the table. Instead, she kept using the old soaked tissue in her hand. Even when Lori offered her a fresh tissue, she hesitated to accept it. Why did Rita behave this way? Dr. Lori believed it was because Rita harbored a deep feeling, I am not worthy. In her subconscious, Rita felt undeserving of the good things in life, even something as simple as a fresh tissue. In psychology, her condition is known as fear of happiness. This fear causes people to see the world through the lens of shortcomings and feel abandoned, betrayed, and rejected. Like a special non-stick pan, those with a fear of happiness don't allow joy to stick to them, but pain clings stubbornly. Often, this fear originates from emotional wounds such as accidents, loss, or childhood trauma. Rita's fear stemmed from her profound guilt over the past. She believed she had been a terrible mother, unable to protect her children from the abuse of her first husband. Each time he hurt her children, she would hide in her art room with a bottle of alcohol, drowning herself in drink, thinking that as long as she shut the door, looked away, and didn't listen, the harm wouldn't happen. But why wouldn't a mother protect her own children? The truth is, she was envious of them, envious of their comfortable life, sibling love, and the security of a home and parental care, things she had never had. So when her children suffered, she didn't help them, gratifying her hidden resentment. Unlike Rita, who was full of self-doubt, there's another story of lost freedom. Charlotte, a 25-year-old stylish young woman, graduated from a prestigious university, worked in a financial institution, and had no shortage of friends and admirers. Yet, she confessed to feeling constantly anxious, exhausted from work, and estranged from her parents. She turned to alcohol and frequently changed boyfriends. Her choices reflected shadows of her mother's depression and alcoholism. The men she dated often reminded her of her father. Psychologist Sigmund Freud called this phenomenon repetition compulsion. For those who were hurt in childhood, familiar scenarios draw them in, as they unconsciously believe they can return to the past and heal their old wounds through similar experiences. However, the result is often the opposite. Their childhood wounds reopen, causing even greater pain. A French philosopher once said, "Hell is other people." But the author of this book shows us that we are our own true hell. Trapped in past traumas, we often become obstacles on our own path forward. Rita, haunted by her past, continually punished herself by belittling her self-worth. Meanwhile, Charlotte, damaged by her parents' cold indifference in childhood, sought attention at any cost, harming her body and health with relentless drinking and endless relationships. So, how can they find redemption and rebirth? The answer lies in courage. Courage to acknowledge the truth, which is the beginning of change. Encouraged by Dr. Lori, Rita bravely admitted her guilt. She confided in her secret crush, explored new relationships, made new friends, and reached out to her children. On her 70th birthday, she received an email from her daughter. Although her daughter hadn't forgiven her, she said, "If you can rebuild a healthy relationship, so can I. And I don't want to wait until I'm 70 to make a change." From that letter, Rita found the courage to step out of the shadows in pursuit of a healthier, freer relationship. As for Charlotte, she courageously faced her issues. Dr. Lori offered her two paths: to keep looking back at her past, destroying herself in the darkness of her childhood, or to look forward, embracing the responsibilities of an adult, and build a brighter future. In the end, Charlotte chose to look ahead, starting her journey of transformation. Though she faltered and wavered, gradually, she broke free from the prison of her childhood wounds, stepping into a broader, freer world. So remember this: true freedom in the present comes only when you dare to step out, courageously confront and acknowledge the past. Searching for what truly matters to you. The final story will discuss the meaning of life. The main character is the author of this book, psychological therapist Lori, who is over 40 years old. She was unexpectedly betrayed by her boyfriend. He said he didn't want to live with her children and then irresponsibly left. Lori angrily called him a child-hating man. Lori could not accept everything. She was filled with anger and sadness. Eventually, she stepped into the therapy room of Dr. Wendell. With the doctor's help, Lori realized that the broken relationship was not the real cause of her negativity, but rather that the midlife crisis was much greater than the end of a romance. Because at that moment, even though she had passed middle age, she still felt uncertain about her future. She feared she would miss the last train of her life and feared that her life would become meaningless. In fact, Lori had always been searching for the meaning of life in the first half of her life. After graduating from college, she worked in Hollywood and became an excellent screenwriter. She felt that she was writing meaningful stories. However, when she participated in a project producing a television show centered around life in the emergency room, she realized that the work of a doctor was more meaningful and grander. Therefore, she gave up everything she had achieved and made an effort to apply to medical school. But while studying medicine, Lori gradually became disappointed. Modern hospitals use a controlled management model, requiring appointment times to be 15 minutes, expecting doctors to treat patients based on cold mechanical data without much regard for the patient's feelings. Lori disliked the treatment process that felt like an assembly line. Thus, she decided to drop out of school and later tried to become a graduate student in clinical psychology and began her work in psychological counseling. In addition to her work as a psychological counselor, Lori persisted in writing books. She faced difficulties related to her writing. 2 years earlier, she had agreed with a publisher that she would write a book related to living happily. But as a single mother struggling to ensure food and clothing for her children, she realized she had no empathy and could not offer anything useful on this topic. Even if she finished writing it, it would not have any meaning. And it was precisely when she was deeply troubled that the child-hating man appeared. He brought a glimmer of hope to Lori's life and helped her escape that meaningless cycle. Perhaps this is why Lori could not forgive him for leaving. Without him, she had to continue facing this meaningless work. Lori decided that as quickly as possible, she had to complete the painful happiness book that was causing her distress. After that, she would start focusing on work that truly mattered. Therefore, she dedicated 2 hours each day to writing, prioritizing speed over quality. However, just as this book was about to be completed with only one final chapter remaining, Lori suddenly received an email from her ex-boyfriend. He bragged to her that a friend had started working at his company. Lori felt it was very inappropriate and baseless. Why was he suddenly boasting about this? Hadn't they broken up? Who cared about his friends or his company anymore? It made no sense. It was utterly meaningless. But it was at this last thought that Lori suddenly shivered and realized something. Wasn't the book she was writing similar to the meaningless email from her ex-boyfriend? If it couldn't create empathy, couldn't touch the souls of others, then it truly had no meaning. Lori did not want others to perceive her work after her death in the same way she felt about that meaningless email from the child-hating man. Therefore, Lori immediately bravely wrote a letter to the publisher's editorial board to cancel the contract and erase it from her mind. It was at this moment that she began to search for truly meaningful themes. Her passion for writing returned, feeling free, relaxed, and vibrant, like a powerful spring gushing forth within her. She said that she had to write what she felt truly mattered in life. She had to do what did not betray her true self. Thus, the book, Maybe You Should Talk to Someone, was born. And from that point on, in 2019, this book truly saved and awakened millions of people around the world each year. Maybe you should talk to someone. Surely everyone who reads this book will feel that life is not easy. Loneliness, death, losing freedom, and being unable to find the meaning of life. We are all facing many difficulties. We crave connection, Yet we fear getting hurt. We are full of hope, but we are afraid of the uncertainty of the future. We know we must let go of the past, but we cannot face the wounds. So, it might be time to find someone to talk to. You will find that there are books that articulate philosophy, perspectives, and provide evidence through stories. There are also books that, from those stories, outline beliefs and awaken calls to consciousness. This book will belong to the latter category. If you feel inspired to read this book, it means you are grappling with inner troubles, and it would be wonderful if you had someone to confide in. But if you can't find the right person, that's okay, because what you are truly lacking is not someone like Dr. Lori, who can help you confront the past and offer advice to resolve present issues. What you really need is courage. So, do not be discouraged if there is no one suitable to talk to, because you still have what the author Lori conveys through this book, along with many other helpful books. You also have videos and content that convey positive messages, just like what Rise Up is doing. You possess the inherent brilliance within your heart, and you have yourself. Everything is just a step, an idea away. Be brave enough to choose, to move forward, and to love yourself. I hope both you and I can bravely open the door, liberate the past, and move forward gently. Even if it is slowly, bit by bit, it can help us find our value and meaning, live in the present, and be freer, more understanding, and more adaptable in this impermanent life. Thank you for listening. If you found this video helpful, please share it with those who need it. Give me a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell to catch my latest videos. Once again, thank you, and I look forward to seeing you in the next videos.